I wanted to talk with the guy who runs American Pulse Research tonight, and I'm going to, but first I want to explain what that is. So it's a survey company. They do research. Obviously, if you're going to be named American Pulse Research, you do research. Hello? Anyway, they use sophisticated techniques to ensure accuracy, reliability, and objectivity in results, and that's what we like. Joining us now from Alexandria, Virginia, in the shadow of the nation's capital, Dustin Olson, who is a pollster for the group, and he hosts a podcast, Political Trade Secrets. Wow. You know, everybody thinks I do a podcast. This is not a podcast. This is
a broadcast.
Yeah, a disciplined broadcast. But everywhere I go, oh, we watch your podcast. It's not a podcast. Not that there's anything wrong with podcasts, but podcasts are ruminating. You ruminate. Here we go. Boom. This is what's going on. So You say, Mr. Olson, that you are seeing the best poll numbers ever for Trump. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's accurate. If you look at 2020 and you look at 2016, at this point today in those races, Biden nationally was up by 7.4%. And Clinton was up by about 4.6%. So that's a pretty big difference. Actually, when I checked right before we came on, and the Real Clear Politics average nationally actually has Trump up a huge 0.4% nationally. But for him, that actually is a pretty big deal because he's never had that at this point in the election. And then the swing states, this is the thing that I find really interesting, though. He's up by 0.9%. But each of the states are very close, and that's been different than previous elections. Sometimes one of the swing states will have a bigger margin, and then another state will have another bigger margin for the other person. They're all within a point or two, and that is unusual. So that's kind of where I see the race right now. You mentioned there's some people who think that it's possible that he could get the popular vote. It is possible. Really, the question is, have pollsters been able to figure out what their mistakes were in 2016 and 2020 and correct for those? I think we are really having accurate results. In 22, we had everything 91% accurate as far as the outcome and 98% within the margin of error. But I'm not sure if that's the case for all pollsters.
No, it's not. And that's why we have you on, because you were very accurate 2 years ago. The gender stuff, they sneaked this in. And some of it's based upon what the voter turnout was in a previous election. But other times it's the thumb on the scale. The pollsters know that most American women, by a small margin, will vote for Harris. Mm-hmm. And by a much larger margin, men will vote for Trump. So if you poll more women, the outcome is likely to be more favorable to Harris, correct?
That's correct, though the population is generally more female than male, and then the voting population is even a little bit slightly more than that. So it's anywhere from 52 to 53% is usually what you want your sample to be. For female, it depends on the state, and I can't speak to every specific state, but we always go in and we look at the census data, and we look at the previous elections and what the makeup was of the population, and that's really important for a pollster to do. People also look at the partisan breakdown, but that's been a problem in the last 10 years because the partisan breakdown, we've had a huge realignment within parties, where a lot of pollsters have really, I think, honed in, especially for states like Wisconsin and Michigan, is looking at who someone voted for in 2020. So we ask that question, who did you vote for? And then we look at that when we get the sample and see if it's in alignment with what the actual results were. And that has helped us to deal with
and that's a smart play. Now, the Republican registration has been reported to be up.
Yep.
Are you seeing that? Is that true?
That is absolutely true. In Pennsylvania in particular, there's some Democrat counties that have now become Republican counties. There's been a mass operation to register voters in that state. And then also the early returns tend to be a little bit more Republican. Now that is a state that has party registration, so we do have a better idea of which party people are registered in. Though, as you know, a lot of people registered maybe in the 1970s. They were a Democrat then.
And it happened. But my theory is that the Republican registration has gone up because the economy is still hurting many American workers in the higher price range. That's my theory.
Yeah, and plus the party identification. That's actually what we use in polling as opposed to registration, because it's kind of a state of mind. And we have seen over this election that people who identify as Republican are just, that's growing. And Gallup did a study over the summer where they found that this is actually the highest that they've seen, that people identify, as Republican or leaning Republican. They had it about 48% to about 45%, I think, for Democrat, which they also indicate is one of the primary factors to kind of guess who's going to win the election.
Okay, final question for you. Right now, as it stands, if American polls had to make a call, a prediction, you would say?
That's a great question. And if people go to pollingclub.com, we are releasing our final survey on Thursday morning. We're in the field currently with our survey. I haven't looked at the results.
All right, good. Because
the initial stuff.
Here's what I'm going to do for you guys.
All right.
So
okay.
You're going to do Thursday morning. I'm going to do Thursday evening on my prediction, but I'm going to set up my prediction with your prediction.
Excellent.
So it better be accurate.
Well, yes. Who knows? But I do think that the trend is in Trump's favor. But stuff like you mentioned the last few days, anything can happen in the last.
Yeah, I mean, the Trump campaign is largely undisciplined. But in the last 7 days, I'm telling you, it's got to be very methodical. It has to be, because a few more of these mistakes, and it didn't have to happen. It was such a crazy mistake to put a comedian unvetted, and they knew he was a bomb thrower. That's how he's made his reputation. And have nobody's watching what he's going to say? Unbelievable. All right, Dustin, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on X. Look for @Bill O'Reilly.